You know, you say fruits and vegetables are wonderful for you. Can you take us through the fruits and vegetables and tell us those things that are probably more nutritious than others and those that are probably lower in sugar content than others?
Sure.
Okay.
And you know, it's interesting. Like we've Luther Burbanked our fruits such that they're much larger, much sweeter than what they were even like 100 years ago. So even, you know, when we are dealing with somebody who has insulin resistance, where they don't respond well to carbohydrate in the diet, even things like apples, oranges, you know, pomegranates. Actually, pomegranates are a pretty nice option because you have to work so damn hard to get the stuff out that you tend to consume it at kind of a slower rate. But that's just something that's maybe a little counterintuitive for some folks, that, you know, fruits and vegetables, particularly the fruits, we always associate them with being healthy, and they are, but there are some folks that need to even limit those and stick more with veggies, which are a little bit lower in carbohydrate content. So that's just a thing to keep in mind.
So somebody that's insulin resistant and or is diabetic or a pre-diabetic person, maybe you could give us some food selections that would be really helpful for them.
You know, for a pre-diabetic, insulin-resistant individual, this is actually a nice display right here. We've got some avocados, which is loaded with a monounsaturated fat, very, very healthy, great for improving insulin sensitivity. And then we've got some asparagus, we've got some squash. These things have carbohydrate content, but they have a ton of fiber, and so the carbohydrate content is relatively low. So the amount of sugar that you're going to get in your system is slow releasing, and it's relatively small. If we cruise over here to like a mango, which I just got back from Hawaii, and the mangoes there were like the size of footballs, and they were amazing. But this is actually the mango, pineapple, pretty high carbohydrate content, and so that can be kind of problematic for some folks. And again, this is kind of hard for people to wrap their mind around, because it's like, well, it's fruit, it should be good for you.
Right.
And it is, so long as you've got good insulin sensitivity. And for some folks, they just need to be a little bit more careful with that. Kiwis are a solid option, berries are a solid option, melons are actually a solid option over here. They tend to have a little bit lower glycemic load. That's the total amount of carbohydrate per, you know, like a pound of fruit. But when we go back here, other than a few things like, broccoli, artichokes, phenomenal. They're great. Carrots, pretty good, but a little bit higher carbohydrate content. Squash, again, are phenomenal. Using things like ginger, different spices. The spices are actually the most nutrient-dense vegetable matter that we can get, so more vitamins, minerals, antioxidants per calorie than anything else. Like you could almost just kind of live off of like basil and ginger and stuff like that and have very low calorie intake and very, very high nutrient intake. But then as we cruise along here, turnips, rutabagas, they tend to be a little bit higher carb content. We've actually got some taro root in here, which is super tasty but pretty high carb content. Jicama is interesting in that it's an intermediate carb content. So if somebody wants something that's a little bit snappy and fresh, a lot of times when folks are eating the way that we recommend, you don't have a lot of like chips and you get that crunchy mouthfeel kind of thing. Jicama is a really nice kind of middle ground. It doesn't have a ton of carbohydrate per serving, but it has a really kind of sweet flavor and nice texture, so it's a good one. And as we move along here, potatoes are one of the veggies that we're going to have to go pretty easy on if we've got any type of insulin resistance. They are super nutrient dense, loaded with carbohydrate, phenomenal if you're a hard charging athlete and you're lean and insulin sensitive. A little bit problematic if you're you have blood sugar problems, pre-diabetic, diabetic, yeah. And then, you know, folks like to talk about eating a variety of colors. So like right in here, we literally, what is it, Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, indigo. So, you know, we've got purples, we've got some reds, yellows, greens, lots of oranges in here. So you've got a mix of antioxidants, you have a mix of these things called phytochemicals, which are helpful in both reversing insulin resistance, very, very potent anti-cancer agents. These guys are pretty cool too here. They actually have like some, prickly pear leaves and stuff like that, which are really nutrient dense.
And I've never known how to cook these.
Yeah, there's some great. Usually, you do a little digging online and you can find some good stuff for that.
There's some great paleo cookbooks out there today.
Yeah. Paleo Comfort Foods. My sister-in-law just did a slow cooker cookbook, so yeah, there's some great options. Sweet potatoes, maybe a little bit less carbohydrate dense than the regular potatoes. Squash are a really good option, which they again are more carbohydrate dense, but less so than say like potatoes and sweet potatoes. Loaded with nutrients, really, really tasty. Cut them in half, put them face down in a glass Pyrex dish, fill that about 1/4 inch deep with water, and then you can actually take the seeds, put a little butter or coconut oil on them, and then fry them up in the skillet, and they are
what a great
delicious.
idea.
Amazing.
Sounds great.
Totally amazing. So again, back to the potatoes, sweet potatoes, pretty carbohydrate dense.
So we're getting ready for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and so, that's where maybe just going a little bit easy on these if fat loss is a goal, if you know that you have some sort of blood sugar regulation problems. Like if you eat a meal containing items like this and you feel pretty good for maybe 20 minutes and 30, 40 minutes later you start feeling foggy headed and kind of a dip in your cognitive function, it's a pretty good indicator that your insulin sensitivity isn't good. And so we want to go easy on this type of stuff, stick more with the low carbohydrate density veggies.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we see a lot of people in our wellness and prevention program, and I'm going to say about 35 to 40% of those people are insulin resistant, and several of them are diabetic, and so this is really helpful.
So when you look at all the kind of negatives, it seems like kind of an easy choice to opt for maybe more carbohydrate sparing veggies versus a ton of potatoes, sweet potatoes and stuff. And it's interesting also, if we can get people healthy, if we can get their insulin sensitivity restored, then you can reintroduce some of this stuff in kind of a punctuated fashion. You just might not be able to eat it every day. Like if I eat a good amount of protein, decent amount of fat, a little bit of carbs, then I stay pretty lean, my blood work looks good. If I start eating too much of that stuff, the dense carbohydrates, I start getting problems. Both of my parents were diabetic. Both of my parents have cardiovascular disease. Yeah. So I've got a high likelihood of a genetic factor, maybe even an epigenetic factor, where my mom was probably insulin resistant while I was in utero. And then that turned genetics on in me that probably left me predisposed to being insulin resistant. So I've got to manage things smart or I'm going to face the same problems they had.
It's interesting because we have seen people on paleo low carb diet when they're insulin resistant, and phenomenal results in a reduction of weight. And these people have tried many weight loss programs, and that's their main goal, not necessarily understanding their blood work, but their main goal is to lose weight. And when they go on a low fat, high carbohydrate diet, all they do is vacillate back and forth with weight gain, weight loss, weight gain, weight loss. They have that rebound. Once they go on a paleo low carb diet, they sustain weight loss in inches, and it is incredible to see these people and the results.
Yeah, if we can just get people to try it, they usually have a great degree of success. The biggest problem that we face is just getting that 30-day buy-in of having folks just give it a shot, but it's incredibly effective.
And it's effective as far as 30 days. They'll see results in 30 days.
Yeah, even in 2
Fast
weeks
results.
we can see amazing blood work changes and weight loss. Yeah.
Well,
so as we swing around here, we can just do kind of a 30,000-foot level of this. But folks sometimes are intimidated by buying all the whole veggies and stuff like that. They're kind of like, I don't know what to do. These days, you can find pre-prepared, salads, veggie products. I would kind of prefer seeing more, cut, slice, do your own thing. But if you're in a pinch, if you've got a bunch of kids and you're busy, we have some really amazing options now, whether they're frozen veggies that are mixed together or some of these pre-prepared salad mixes, and they have like squash and veggie medleys. You throw those in a pan, you put some olive oil with it, cook some meat in that, and your meal is done.
So I think one of the arguments is that it is to eat healthy is more expensive than than eating, just grabbing something off the shelf and having a pre-mixed lean cuisine, for instance.
Yeah, we've put the bullet in the head of that idea. We've done some shopping where we compare like, cereal and some prepackaged food, standard, shopping list, and then just shopping smart in this kind of paleo low carb way, and you can eat inexpensively and very, very well this way.
And you don't have a lot of medical bills.
Yeah, and then when your medical bills are less, then that's a big deal. Yeah.